You get to take lead. You get to...
I'm excited.
I'm
also
excited.
really nervous. I've been sweating the entire time here.
You sweat every episode.
I get really nervous.
Every episode,
It's
you're like,
anxiety.
I am sweating. So, welcome to another episode of He's Just the Plot, a podcast about book boys and wondering, are they okay? Here we analyze our book boyfriends and apply counseling theories and techniques we would use if they were our clients. Because guys aren't the only people who say, wow, that's deep.
All right, so I'm Alyssa, one of your hosts, counseling student 1 week away from graduating, single, hot, and fully aware that falling for emotionally unavailable fictional men is my Roman empire. And today's man, 10 out of 10, would ignore my own red flags for him.
I love that you would ignore your own red flags. Would ignore my problems to date this guy.
Absolutely. Therapy no longer needed. He is my therapy.
Oh, well, I honestly... You're right. The way this book was set up, it really, why was she in therapy when she could have been with Lukas Blomqvist?
What a name.
I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so.
Yeah, I didn't even try to pronounce his last name. Every time it came up in the movie or the book, I was just like,
I was like, Blomqvist. It was bad. Anyway, I'm Nora, one of your hosts, also a counseling student 1 week away from graduating. As someone who is taken and in love with my boyfriend, I'm glad this man is fictional. Today's book boyfriend reminded me of a time in college when I was talking to someone and really noticed how attractive they were and suddenly lost my ability to speak. And it haunts me to this day because I think if I met Lukas Blomqvist, something similar would happen.
Same.
I mean, the way she describes him as this kind of overwhelming presence that just kind of sucks the focus of the room. I would be that person who's like sucked into it. And
I would also.
I cannot begin to explain. I have a thing for attractive names. This guy's name was Ezekiel. And I was just like in the middle of like a sentence. And I looked up at him and we made direct eye contact. And I stopped mid-sentence and I felt myself go bright red. And I couldn't make words come out after. And he was like, say it.
Okay?
Like, he was like, say it. Finish your sentence, Nora. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta go.
I got secondhand embarrassment from that story.
It was profoundly embarrassing. And that's okay.
That's okay.
I went to a small university, so this also happened to be in college. So I still saw him a lot.
Did you get any better at talking to him?
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He's very sweet. Actually, I don't think much like Lukas, because he had a rather gregarious and outgoing personality. And our main guy, Luke, has something. Mm-hmm. He's stoic. He's Swedish.
Yes.
But before we get into that, let's say this book we're talking about, if you haven't guessed already, The Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is one of her standalone books, and we're excited to talk about it. But spoiler alert, if you have not read this book, catch you next time. Come back.
Or if you're like me and will listen anyways, welcome.
I guess, yeah.
Because I did read the end of this book before.
It was that stressful for you?
No, I was just getting annoyed.
Deep End follows Scarlett Vandermeer, which I that's a sports name. That is a Stanford diver name.
I like her nickname too.
Vandy, that's a good one.
It's cute.
Anyway, Vandy, a college diver recovering from a traumatic injury, and Lukas Blomqvist, I'm so sorry, a world-class swimmer with a guarded heart. When a mutual secret brings them together in an unexpected, consensual BDSM arrangement, their emotionally closed-off dynamic slowly transforms. Through growing trust, shared vulnerability, and emotional healing, both characters confront their fears. Vandy with diving and self-worth, Lukas with connection and intimacy. What begins as a physical arrangement evolves into a deeply emotional, empowering relationship. That's true. That's a good synopsis.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I worked really hard.
Go out. You identified that. That's good. I like that you said she struggled with her diving and self-worth, because facts. And then connection and intimacy for Lukas, because I agree. Like, I think he could not be like emotionally intimate with his ex-girlfriend Pen, who we will also talk about. So our main male lead, Lukas, goes by Luke or Luke. I don't know if we called him Luck or Luke. For the sake of this podcast, I'll call him Lukas. 22 or 23, Swedish Olympic swimmer, nicknamed Sweetie, which I think is cute.
I did like his nick. The nicknames in this book, I think, were just really done well. I love a good nickname. Well. I think especially with like sports and athletics, it went well.
And for me, the high point of this book was Luke admitting, and I quoted this out, "I learned what an inward dive is after the first time you mentioned them to me." And Vandy learning about different things from Sweden, the fact that like they went out of their way to learn about the things that were important to the other person. Luke's being Vandy's diving, and for Vandy, like learning about like Sweden and their snack times.
Yeah,
I think was really nice. I just liked that was very human, like very much a relationship, very human, very much showing like I care about this person without having to be told I care about this person.
Yeah. I think they're very personable, and I think for both of them that's not something common. And so I think it's really nice that they were able to do that for each other. And I think it goes along with like developing trust. And I think she developed trust with him pretty fast, despite like bad environment with her dad in the past.
Yes. So I think a huge plot point in this book is that Vandy comes in to this book at the start of her junior year, and she had just come off a really traumatic accident from diving her sophomore year, and she's just rehabbed, and so it's the start of the season, and she is having this huge mental block and she can't do an inward dive, and she's in therapy about it. And you finally come to see like one of the big hangups she has is that she's a very emotionally closed off person because her dad was very controlling of basically everything in her life, and she ended up having to cut ties with him and move in with her stepmom. Her boyfriend at the time of the NCAA tournament where she got injured right before had broken up with her. Her dad had called her. Like, all of these crazy things have happened. And so trust is such a huge thing for her. And she is very uncomfortable around men. And Luke keeps pointing that out, which I thought was very interesting. Like, he's very observant.
He was very observant. And I think he did a really good job of like listening. And I thought that was really cool, because I feel like so many times you meet people who I think listen to speak back to you rather than like listening to understand. And so I think it was really an interesting take on like a male lead, on him actually like listening and understanding. And she mentioned like things like once, and he went out of his way to buy her like that tie-dye. But it was
chamois, the tie-dye chamois and the Chinese food. Yeah. And it's nice that he cares and he listens. My big thing with this, though, is I think you're right. And this is why I got on this topic. I think you're right. She built and established trust with him very quickly. And that seems out of character given how uncomfortable she feels around men and the description that the author has of Luke of being this kind of very intimidating but forceful, stoic person. But she's immediately like, I feel very calm around you. I feel very much myself. I feel like I don't need to hide, like I'm safe with you. And so I found that to be a really interesting dynamic that's worth exploring, because it almost seems like magical. And I think there's this I think there's this trope in romance specifically of there was just something, I can't say what it was, but just right off the bat, like I knew, like it's just like this magical feeling. And I don't know if I agree with that. And maybe that's why I like enemies to lovers so much, because there's never that magical feeling.
They hate each other.
Yes, they really have to build at understanding why I like this person. And Luke and Vandy never have a conversation of, why did I feel so comfortable with you right away? What is it about you that I really like and enjoy? And I think by all means, this is a good relationship for the most. Like, I don't think this is the relationship I'm concerned about.
No.
I would let my friend date Lukas Blomqvist.
I would too. I also thought it was kind of going off of that like magical feeling that people experience in books. I've never felt it before, so
it must not be real.
Right? But I think even in the book, his brother was like, when you know, you know. And then he even called her like future sister-in-law. And I was like, wow, they have a lot of confidence in this whole relationship when it wasn't even official.
And I think for me, it's the when you know stuff. I've never enjoyed that, because my dad says that to me a lot. He's like, well, when I met your mom, like, you know. And I was like, once again, did you? Do you think that was a good call?
I think my parents have never said that to me.
Yeah, my mom doesn't say that to me.
My mom was like, I married your dad because I needed medical insurance when I got pregnant with you. I was like, oh, well, you're welcome.
My mom's never given an explanation. She said he was hot.
That'd be me as a mom.
That would be. Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there, but what was your low point of the book?
Honestly, I thought it was just an interesting dynamic with Penn and Luke. I think the fact that they didn't tell anyone that they had broken up was just weird. Like, I understand the privacy thing, but then it just makes Vandy, at the end of the day, look like a sneaky person. And I don't think that's fair to throw someone else under the bus like that to save face for yourself or like your relationship or your past relationship, whatever it is.
I agree with that. And I think it really did set Vandy up for the traumatic episode that happened at her second NCAA.
The poor girl.
Tournament. Yeah, like she's probably over here like, I can't go to these events. Something bad's going to happen.
She won and didn't even get to go to the podium and like celebrate.
Yeah, no, she won. So Vandy wins the NCAA like diving tournament. Luke comes over and they have been together for months now, almost a year, I think.
I think at the end of the book, he was like, we've been basically dating for like a year.
Yeah. And I will say, I do respect the timeline of this book. Yes. And we've talked a bit about that. I liked that this was a relatively realistic timeline.
Me too.
But Luke comes over to like kiss her tears and like congratulate her. And like, this is she went from the beginning of the year not being able to even do this inward dive to winning the NCAA to qualifying to be able to compete in the Olympics. And instead of being able to celebrate, because also I really appreciated this, and I think Ali Hazelwood did a really good job of showing character growth with Vandy.
Yes.
And going from very clinical, anxiety-ridden, black and white to I wrote this sheet. I think Vandy did things because she should. I should do this. I should do that. And it's never because I want to do this and I want to do that. And then everything became like a need. I have to. I need to. It's so important that I get this right, that it just created such intense anxiety that honestly, when we were talking about this before we had finished, I was like, it must be so exhausting.
No, really.
I'm tired of reading about, like, I can't be in this girl's head.
I was exhausted being in her head, like just like the constant overthinking and just like the second guessing of like the disappointment, or am I doing this right, or what happens if I fail. And like you said, I think it was really nice to see that growth, because she did get to the end of the book where she was like, you know, I should just be happy that I'm here in this moment and that I made it this far. And like, I should be happy with, you know, just being able to do the dives and be good. And I was like,
Facts.
you should be. Yeah.
Facts.
I'm like, it was really, I don't think I really wholeheartedly liked the book a whole lot, but I do like seeing the character growth. I think she did a really good job with really portraying that throughout the book. I think with both characters.
Yes, I think Luke, you could tell from like how Penelope described Luke, and that goes back to, I think, your low point. Penelope describes him very closed off, very stoic, I keep saying stoic, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And she can't connect with him. They have this shared experience of her supporting him through a really difficult time, and he feels like forever indebted to her for that, and she feels dependent on him for social status because she's getting bullied by some other divers, and all of that's happening in the background. And when they break up, they don't tell anyone, and so because they didn't tell anyone, Luke goes to celebrate with this girl that he's like, I'm in love with her. I want her to be my girlfriend. She just did this huge, amazing achievement. And now she's getting straight up bullied by her teammates, including Penn, and like called out, like, look at you. You're stealing someone's boyfriend. How could you cheat like this? That's so disrespectful. And Penn being like, you just wanted to be me. Like, oh my gosh, girl.
You took everything from me. And like, I understand she was hurt in the moment. Like, she just lost when she was predicted to win. And I think she gave, I think, a decent explanation. Like, I understand she felt really hurt because she didn't have the same connection with Luke the way that Vandy did. And I think it is hurtful when you've known someone for so long and you think that, you know, they're special to you and vice versa, and then you find out like, oh no, I don't see this version of him.
I'm not the one. Like, I couldn't, no matter how much time I spent, I couldn't be what this other person is to them. And that is, I can see that being very hurtful, but also it did not mean that you got to take something that wasn't about you, like time and place. Like, this wasn't about you. This wasn't the time to address it. And it was very immature. But I also think it was immature of Luke to basically tell Vandy that he was in love with her then. This girl who
an overwhelming moment already.
We have established does not like being overwhelmed, does not like commotion, hates surprises. One, something she feel like she didn't deserve. Then her quote unquote best friend and her teammates all ganged up on her and told her she was a villain. And then the boy she has not been necessarily sneaking around with, but has understood that they couldn't quite be public with it. Comes out and says that he loves her in front of everyone, also putting her in an awkward situation. And so and then she doesn't even get to celebrate her win. And so the fact that she had to be like, stop, I need a moment, and all of these people who care about her couldn't recognize that, like, that is an overwhelming situation, and that sucks.
That really sucks.
And I think it shows too that she was able to like set that boundary and like process it. I think it really shows her growth from counseling. And I know in the book they talked about how much Vandy liked CBT. Shout out cognitive behavioral therapy. I actually felt, though, a lot of her growth came from an ACT mindset.
Yeah, I agree.
I really appreciated that. And we've talked about ACT before on this podcast, but I don't think this isn't the counseling theory we're going to use today.
So when reading this book, I was really back and forth on two different theories, but I ended up going with psychodynamic therapy. Lukas is like an emotionally controlled avoidant and kind of just keeps people at an arm's length, which again, he's just a very private person. The way that a lot of people explain him is he's that he's a cold person, but I don't think in reality he is. I think he just tends to be really guarded. He's very disciplined, emotional repression, and I think there's a lot of unresolved things from past, and I think he could really benefit from learning emotional, oh my gosh, almost like intelligence. And I think psychodynamic therapy could really be helpful. I think especially if you look at it through like an attachment lens.
And I like that approach because it kind of modernizes some of psychodynamic approaches, which are kind of like the oldest approaches in the book, if you will.
Yeah. So with this, with the defense mechanism that Luke uses is like an emotional detachment and just like the hypersense of like needing to control something. So I think it talks about it a lot. Like when he almost enjoys something too much, he's like, no, I need to prove to myself that I can live without this thing. And it's kind of in my, like, I was kind of fucked up for him to have sex with Vandy. They had an intimate moment. Like they're exploring something they haven't been able to explore with other people. And then he kind of just like
ghost her. And he was like, it was just going to be 14 days. What?
Yeah.
I get it sometimes because like I think about his behavior as like people who do maybe dry January. And it's like a way to prove to yourself that you're not addicted to something. But it still seems like it's coming from not quite an emotionally healthy place. And I think Vandy makes a really good point. She's not an object. She's a person. And your relationship, to say like, I like my relationship with this person too much, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
To me, because we're such relationship driven people that you can't just be an island. So then if you're like, well, I like this thing specifically about being with this person, then that makes the sex really transactional and objectifies Vandy. And that is also very bad. That wouldn't recommend.
Yeah. And I think she got the short end of the stick on that situation.
I think she got the short end of the stick on a lot of situations.
That poor girl. The entire book, I was like, I feel for her. I've been in that moment where like you're just experiencing so much at once. And it can be really overwhelming, and it sucks when like the people around you aren't helping. Like he kind of, and I think it just feeds back to like she overthinks a lot. And like this was the beginning of their relationship. This was the beginning of her going to a different counselor or a different therapist. And so like, anyways, I also didn't give a description of what psychodynamic therapy is. It's a form of talk therapy rooted in psychoanalytical theory, which was originally developed by Sigmund Freud. Love Freud. He's such an interesting person. I actually really don't like a lot of his theories.
I think psychoanalytic theory has evolved since Freud.
Yes.
And Freud has created a lasting impact on the field of psychology and counseling, and that he really drove it to become something worth studying in a science. And this, I think, fundamentally this thought that like your brain is something that has emotions, and emotions create all sorts of issues, and sometimes we got to work through those issues.
Yeah. Which I think why this approach could be really, really appropriate for him, because it's increasing a person's awareness and understanding of like past experiences, and then almost like your current thoughts, emotions, and your behaviors. And so kind of going back and understanding his defense mechanism, even like transference and relationship patterns. So he repeats a lot of emotional roles. You know, he's strong, almost like in a sense, like a silent protector. I think he's very protective of Vandy in a lot of ways. Like I think she didn't tell him about a concussion, and he was like, I want to know these things. Like, I need you to tell me.
I love that he started with, I need to know. And I was like, I want to know. Because I think even then he was like, that's such an intimidating thing to say to someone. Like, I need to know these things is almost off-putting.
Yeah.
Because then you're taking away the choice of me sharing with you and making it about someone making it about your anxiety instead of me struggling and you wanting to help. It's you're anxious that I'm feeling bad or sad or whatever, and I have to now comfort you. And so I appreciated that he kind of like checked himself.
And I think he is very protective of the people he loves, and I think that shows in his relationship with Pin on like he feels like he owes her a lot, and so he kind of puts up this facade that they aren't broken up,
even though it hurts the woman he loves. So I actually think I'm more frustrated with Luke on that than Pen, because I totally understand. Like Pen is like half of my identity is him.
Yeah,
that's how she set up her world.
Yep.
That is not the same for him. And so I think he was in a more powerful position to be like, I'm sorry, you need to work through this. We can still be friends, but we can't be a couple. Also, you broke up with me. Just saying.
I agree. I think that was also like a low point in the book for me, is I felt like he was really putting Pin over Vandy. And his actions just weren't, I don't know. That was a little annoying because I'm like, you say you love this person, because then even Pin points out, she's like, well, now you love two people at the end when they had that big blowout. And he was like, no, I don't.
Oh, yeah, that was hurtful. He said, oh, we're just doing all of this
right now
like when we should be celebrating Vandy, we're airing our dirty laundry and we're making it about us, and we're taking away the spotlight from the person who just did an incredible achievement, who we quote unquote love.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, go off. All of you kind of suck.
Yeah, really.
And I don't even like Vandy. Like, I feel like I would struggle with her as a person.
I think I would have a hard time being her friend. Also, her roommate. Sorry, that's a tangent.
Her roommate's aggressive.
I was like, do they like you? Are they friends or are they? I could not tell the entire book if they were friends or not friends, but they'd been living together for.
I think you just get comfortable living with someone, and they're your roommate. Like, I really think they just see each other as we're roommates. We know how the other person lives.
Yeah. Because I feel like she was really only there, like she wasn't there for like pivotal moments. Like if Vandy needed someone or needed something, like that's not the person she turned to.
But she was also the closest person to Vandy until now.
Yeah.
Which I was like, so Vandy has no friends.
She had no friends.
She got a best friend and a boyfriend. And won the NCAA. No friends, no dives, nothing. And now she's
no mans.
Now she's got mans, she got friends, and she dives.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting. I thought that was an interesting dynamic. That's a different tangent though. But I think this also goes into attachment style for Luke, and he's avoidant, and I think it shows. But I think there's also a lot of cultural considerations as a counselor that you really have to keep in mind with this character.
Go off.
And so I had such a hard time.
MSJCC.
Yeah, right. I had such a hard time because I'm like, okay, is it avoidant or is it a cultural thing?
Ooh, is it hot or is it trauma? Is it avoidant or is it cultural? There's so many questions.
Like, I don't know. He was avoidant. Like, again, he had to take control when he felt like he couldn't live without Vandy.
Yeah, and that was so intense.
And it was just, and so it does come off as like an avoidant attachment. And so he almost tries to really keep it transactional. And so does she in a way. Like, she's also avoidant. Like, I think they're both used to not having like innocence, like your person, like the person.
I think they're not used to trust within relationships, and they would rather rely on themselves than trust another person.
Yeah.
And so it makes them, and because they couldn't for a long time, right? Because Vandy, if we're looking at this, Vandy's mom, not in the picture, her biological mom, not in the picture ever. Vandy's dad incredibly controlling, demeaning, abusive. So she gets separated from him, and all she has is her stepmom, who loves her to bits, but very demanding job, and has made it very clear to Vandy, like, I can't go to your meets because other people need me. I need to make sure other people live. And while that's very understandable, that's incredibly hard for a teenager to hear, and then still feel like they can develop secure attachments with others, because it's like the moment I get close to someone is the moment that something else becomes a priority instead of me.
Yeah. And I think it sucks that she didn't really get to see an idea of like what a good relationship is, like with trust on, like with anyone, like friends, family members,
Her own boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend.
He cheated on her.
I
think he was like emotionally cheating.
He for sure emotionally cheated. I don't know if he physically consummated it, but he was so wrapped up in his own thoughts. And I was so proud of her at the grocery store. So what was it, over Thanksgiving? She'd had this relationship. So the book's happening. We're probably like middle of the book at this point. And Lukas has helped her understand that she can't just be doing everything for herself. And like he reflected back the timeline of events to her right before her accident. And I was like, ooh, Lukas actually is her counselor.
No, literally.
This was a counseling move. This is what a therapist would do. She gave him this kind of chaotic story because it was very traumatic for her. And he put it together in a timeline and said, okay, so what you're telling me is the day before the biggest event of your life, your estranged father who legally cannot call you calls you. Hours before your dive, your boyfriend of 2 years tells you he's in love with someone else and breaks up with you. You're out of your routine because you've lost your favorite tie-dye chamois, which I'm not so certain someone didn't steal from her. Honestly, when he had Penn gift her that new tie-dye chamois, my immediate thought was Penn actually stole it from her that day.
I thought that too.
And then, but like, I feel like Ali Hazelwood's not the type of person who would write like women against women. Like, she doesn't do frenemies. But I was like, my first thought was like, she stole it. She was jealous, and now she's giving it back. And to be like, oh, Lukas gave it, like it was a very petty move. But anyway, Lukas gives her this timeline, and she's finally like, oh. And he was like, yeah, like, you can be upset. Like, this is upsetting. I am upset for you.
I'm angry for you.
Like, why are you not angry? And she's like, I am angry. Oh my. And like, she had just had these realizations.
An epiphany.
Yeah. And then she like slept, which sleep is the best. Honestly, here's my counseling advice to anyone. Sleep.
Yeah. That and cry it out. Like, sometimes like it's okay to feel those emotions. Like if you keep bottling it up. And I think that's almost what she did.
She cried. She slept. She did the dive.
Yeah. And I think when you suppress so many emotions like that, it's so easy. Eventually it's gonna like boil over. And
we love a bowl here.
Like, my accent comes out every now and then. Okay,
only when I'm drinking Dos Equis.
Anyways,
or daiquiris.
Really, anytime I'm drinking.
You
did it right. Okay. What were we talking about?
We were talking about how it's okay to be upset and to cry it out and to sleep.
I think it's so important. And I know I was a person, and my dad is not like this anymore, not to throw him under the bus, but he was very much a person that was like, you cry to your pillow, you cry in the shower, you don't cry in front of people.
You have literally said that to me like 5 times in our friendship.
I know.
To put this in perspective, Alyssa and I went to Scotland. We lost our luggage for 3 days. And we were only in London for 2 days. And then we were about to go to a houseboat in Glasgow. So we didn't have like this permanent physical address. So we couldn't even get the luggage shipped to Glasgow. So we had to go to the Glaswegian airport. Alyssa's like having a breakdown, but you can tell she's like keeping it inside. We finally make it to a new Airbnb because our Glaswegian houseboat had a catastrophic boiler failure.
Dude, the whole week was...
And She just went to her room, shut the door.
Because they still don't have my luggage.
They still didn't have your luggage.
They had to fly it all the way out to Glasgow.
She cried into her pillow. She came down and she said, obviously, I'm not going to cry in front of you guys. I'm either going to cry in the shower, cry in my pillow. I don't cry in front of people.
I hate crying in front of people. And that
now she's crying all the time.
Never.
Okay, well, you just told people to cry.
Yeah, I know. Don't take... I need to listen to my own advice. In my therapist tells me that all the time. She's like, it's okay to cry. And I'm like,
It's okay to find people you trust enough to cry in front of.
Not saying I don't trust my friends.
It's okay. I get it.
I think
you hate me.
I think it's hard to be vulnerable. And I think we
So
see that
hard.
in this book, though. Like, that vulnerability is really hard to show other people because it's almost like they're seeing a part of you that not a lot of people get to see. And so it can be a really intimate moment. And I know when I first started counseling and we were in counseling process and I accidentally made a student of mine because you practice with each other counseling skills. Ooh. She cried in session. This is like my first session anyone's ever cried in front of me, and I had no clue what to do. You can see the panic
because we film our practice sessions. Yeah, be like,
you can see. Yeah,
I never understood counselors who were like, "That's a win." I made someone cried in front of me. That's a win. I was like, It is something that has happened.
Yeah. And so, again, I think it's important to feel your emotions. And I'm trying to do a better job of feeling my emotions.
It's hard.
It's hard, though.
It's hard. So, just like Vandy, like, it takes a lot of work. And you have to find those people who help you create safe spaces to feel those emotions.
Yeah.
And I think with Luke and Vandy, they do that for each other. And I can appreciate that about a relationship. And I think that creates a really healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately their attachment styles, then you can watch them go from avoidant to secure.
To secure, yeah.
And I do think by the end of the book, they have a very secure attachment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think from my understanding with Luke is that, and I could be interpreting it wrong, but it's almost like vulnerability to him in a sense is almost like unsafe or like a weakness. And I don't know if I interpreted that right or not. But that's why I think I really picked psychodynamic is just by the ability to develop awareness with patterns and processing unresolved emotional material, and then really being able to form secure bonds with people that he gets to do with Vandy. So some of the goals that I had, if he was my client, is really just kind of like making the unconscious conscious. And so being able to explore his past, family dynamics. He talks about his mom passing away when he was at a swim meet. And I think that really kind of almost puts a strain in his relationship with swimming. And you see that and how it's uncovered and how he kind of gets through that block for himself. I think this is also where you could really explore cultural values.
Yes.
And really kind of dive deep into it again, is he avoidant or is it a cultural aspect? Because I had to do research when I was doing this. So some cultural considerations.
We do research for every podcast, but we did research specifically on this cultural consideration because it's not our culture.
Yeah.
And this is one of the first times I think we've been like, this is a real culture that is also not our culture. Because obviously Aloha is not real.
Yes. I think from my understanding is in Swedish culture, it tends to be very emotional reserved. And so they really value emotional control, calmness, and privacy. And so they're not much of oversharing or dramatically emotional displayed people. And so I think that's really something to take into consideration and even explore for him. But I thought it was really cute, the moments that he did show PDA for Vandy, that was really out of his comfort zone. And I think in a sense, it was almost making a statement to people he does really have these developed feelings for Vandy. And so I think these are moments where you could really look at cultural considerations. Some other things that I would keep as goals for him if he was my client is like reducing the use of defense mechanisms. So really honing in on his use of detachment and avoiding almost like emotional discomfort with some people, and really guide him to adapt more that ability to be vulnerable with Vandy when she's experiencing or when he's experiencing things.
Yeah, I don't feel like he opened up about his mom, and he was very much like, I don't talk to people about this. But outside of that, I don't think he talks about his emotional experiences and his wants and desires with Vandy per se. That being said, I do also want to point out like some of the stuff with his defense mechanisms, I also think have a cultural aspect to it.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up because I think it also goes into very much, from my understanding, is in Swedish culture is they're very independent. Like they have a huge emphasis on personal autonomy and like self-reliance and like I can handle it myself. And so I think that plays a part in it, which again, I think with these goals, you'd really have to, and with this therapy approach, you really have to sit down and explore those cultural values and really intake like, okay, what is avoidant and what is that cultural aspect that's playing a role into who he is and who his personality is. And so I think with the detachment, it's almost like I'm an independent person. Like these are my problems. These are what I'm going to deal with because it's so.
I think with this, the detachment is you as the therapist and Luke would have to work out like what is cultural and what is psychological.
Yeah.
Because you can be very autonomous and self-reliant, but that doesn't mean you need to be emotionally closed off. And I think there is some part of Luke who has a lot of emotional discomfort and is emotionally closed off, especially with his relationship with Penn, because he didn't feel safe to be 100% himself because she really rejected his BDSM, which I also want to point out, I don't get why everyone was really stressed about the BDSM aspect. Even reading it, I was like, this is really light stuff.
Dude, reading the sex scenes, I was like, I wholeheartedly had way different expectations going into this book.
Also, yeah, everything they brought up that was like BDSM culture, like the consent, huge. Yes. Glad they had it. Glad he was like, I need resounding consent.
Safe word.
Very generic safe word, but
it works.
It worked. It worked in an emotional moment too.
I thought that was really.
I
liked it. She really put that boundary and was like,
she did
stop.
But she trusted him to do it too, which I thought was huge because he was the one who was like, if you say stop, I will stop. Repeat it back to me. Like he told her that was a boundary.
Yeah.
And then she did it and he did it.
He stopped.
Yeah.
He
stopped. But then I think oh shoot, no, I lost my train of look at us losing our trains of thoughts.
It's one of those days.
But I think I don't.
It's okay.
I think he saw it. I got distracted by his hotness.
Something too to explore with him is, which I think he kind of does on his own, is untangling that self-worth from his performance. But again, I think this is also where you have to think about cultural considerations because people in Swedish culture, they don't brag. Like that's not a thing that they do. They don't, I guess, like hugely celebrate when they win. They're not cocky people. And I think that really showcases when they're like, oh, congratulations. And he's like, whatever.
But I think with that, what I also appreciated about their relationship is that Vandy and Luke, is that they almost automatically attuned their communication styles to each other.
Yes.
So he won this huge kind of like world's swim meet And it was a big deal. And she recognized, because he had already told her, like, in Swedish culture, we don't really celebrate. We don't do these things. So she wanted to celebrate him from the rafters, but she recognized that to him was culturally inappropriate and would be very upsetting for him. And so the fact that she just like sat in his lap and like whispered how proud she was of him to him and like made it this really intimate and very special private moment really showed how much she was also taking in his needs.
Yes.
And I think that was also very apparent to him. And I think one of the moments he was like, I really love this girl because she also is understanding me as a person, not just me in a time of need, like Penn did. Like Penn understood him when he was struggling.
Yeah.
She understood, like Vandy understood Luke when he was just himself. And I think that is really beautiful. I do like that. Ali Hazelwood, you did great there.
I think she did a really good job too. With Vandy on, I think she showcased, like, in a sense, like Vandy does a really good job of like really, trying to find out, what his needs are and who he is as a person. Whereas, and I think Penn more so liked the idea of him because there's a lot of like Easter eggs in there when she was like, oh, which brother did you meet? And then she was like,
I've
wait,
never met the dad.
Yeah, they've never, she's never been to Sweden before.
And they were together for 7 years. Sus.
But again, that could be that he didn't feel comfortable enough to be himself around her.
And I think he didn't.
Yeah.
He straight up, because he was like, yeah, I would have gone. I think it's also something I would want to work with Luke on is how committed he is to things. The fact that he was like, I would spend the rest of my life with her 100%, not being myself and suppressing this. Because
that was wild.
He felt like he owed her something that happened happened to him and was a traumatic event as a child. Like that, understanding when enough is enough with Luke is something that's important. And when self-sacrifice is becoming too much, I think is important to work on. And yeah, I'd work. I'm trying to think of like a counseling skill.
Yeah.
For like, when is that too? But
I was looking at my application of like,
well, I think in this theory, it would really just be like asking those questions. Like that seems like a big commitment. Tell me more about what's prompting you to do this. Like, what is it about your past experience with Penn that makes you think your future is so tied with her?
I think exploration is just going to be really huge with this counseling theory and him as a client. I think.
And him as a client needs to trust you a lot. Yeah. And trust is huge for both Vandy and Luke. And so building that trusting relationship as a therapist with your client is so fundamental. And I think for Luke, that starts with a non-judgmental atmosphere. Yeah. Reserved and non-judgmental is how I would approach that relationship.
I think it's really to exploring and learning how, I don't want to say closed off, but kind of being a private person, I guess, can coexist with also being able to like emotionally connect with someone. And so like they can, in a sense, coexist with each other. And so I think that's really important in the relationship to build. Like, yes, you can have your privacy, but like I'm also a person that's going to be here for you to explore your emotional thoughts or behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be really interesting looking at the application of that. And really, I think just exploring like his past relationships with his family. I think, again, culture plays into it. And I didn't like how the mom was really only brought up that one time. And, that was an important person to him, and he lost her at a young age. And I think that's something to still explore and kind of talk about and see if there is unresolved feelings with grief.
And if that's playing into that immediate attraction he had to Vandy and that immediate trust building. And so I'm curious too, like, are there similarities between Vandy and his mother? Not to be too Freudian about this.
But I think it's something to explore with the application. And again, you have to really think about cultural considerations with this. I think with this entire client, and it's so important when you do have clients who aren't the same culture as you to also do your research and explore that culture and really take in, like, is it a culture or is it, you know, a past experience that's affecting you this way? And I think that's really important with this client, just because a lot of it seems to be culture when people consider him closed off or consider him like distant. It's more of just like a privacy thing. Like, he just doesn't feel the need to make, you know, these public notions. And I think it's really interesting. Penn threw that they threw him that huge party when he came back from, was it Worlds?
Yeah, from not Amsterdam.
No, I think it was Amsterdam.
Okay, when he came back from Amsterdam.
Yeah, and they threw him that party, whereas in, like, that's not something I think he would really enjoy.
Yes, I think he appreciates the thought because he appreciates being thought of. But like a nice card would have sufficed for him.
And I think it shows, like, that I think Vandy really does understand him as a person, whereas in, like, the people he does consider friends and stuff maybe don't have that same understanding or took time to really understand him in that way. Yeah,
or even, like, their actions weren't motivated by him, but by their interests in him. Yeah. Instead of, and I think this is a good point in something just as people, how much of what we're doing is focused on how we feel, how we're going to feel once we do it.
Yeah.
So, like, how am I going to feel by saying by volunteering or by throwing a party for this person? I'm going to feel good about that. So if that's more of my motivator than, like, I want to make someone else feel good, then that's something worth self-reflecting on. And I don't think Vandy really does that.
Yeah.
I think she's so wrapped up in her own anxiety and stress and perfectionism and ideas of not being enough that she can't even have a thought of this is going to make me feel good to do something for someone else. Like, she's constantly just, and that could be kind of the extreme end of it too. Like, if you're constantly thinking about other people and their thoughts and doing everything that's right for them so that you're able to relieve your anxiety, like, that's also very unhealthy because that's also a little selfish in how you're handling things. And that's not to be a criticism, but that's to say, you're focusing on your needs, your wants, your expectations over someone else's. And I think with Look, this is the first time Vandy's able to just focus and be happy on someone else for the sake of them, because he reciprocates that for her so much. He approaches her in the way that she wants. He's very observant of her. He makes her feel safe. He indulges her in her not intensely BDSM wants. This is like the most light dom and sub situation. I'm not trying to yuck people's yums, but I was like, why are we so stressed about this? No one's a quote unquote deviant. Like, I don't know why Penn was freaking out.
Yeah.
I don't know why Vandy was freaking out.
I was just going to, when you put BDSM isn't a personality trait, I was like, no, period, because it's not. And I feel like Penn made it feel like
shameful.
Yeah.
For no reason.
No reason.
And she was like, am I going back on feminism and all this stuff? And I'm like, you're overthinking it.
You're so overthinking it.
If you're not into it, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. And you communicated that. But the fact that you're continuously talking about it with people who have expressed that they're interested in it in a kind of negative way is inadvertently shaming them. And I think Penelope also really lacks a lot of self-reflection and insight, and she's very wrapped up in her own wants and her own needs, which also, okay, that's fine. This isn't about, we need this character for to move this book forward, but
I think she's a little selfish a lot of the times throughout the book.
Yeah, and she's young. They're both young, right? They're like in their 20s. They're barely able to legally drink. I keep forgetting this. They're in college, so they're super keyed up. They're collegiate athletes. They are at their prime. They're peaked and they are ready to go. They're turned on. And so I just don't think any of it was really that. And even the stuff that they mentioned, they were like, oh, you want to ball gag me? And he's like, we've discussed that I am not interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So you're just interested in a smack on the butt?
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, I think I had different expectations. And so
yeah, if you're going to tell me BDSM,
yeah.
I'm like whips,
That's what I
chains,
thought.
clamps. As someone who has dated someone who is in the BDSM community, and I will share this. This is so dumb. I was dating this guy, and he texted me. He was like, I did a little CBT last night. And I was like, cognitive behavioral therapy? That was my text back. That was my first thought. And he said, no, cock and ball torture. And I said, oh, well, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but that's not for me. Like I was like, we aren't going to work out, but go off.
Yeah.
Go off. And I always to this day will support that guy 100%. I think also the BDSM community is such a welcoming and wonderful community, at least the one that I got to experience while I was in London. And they were just so open and free, and you could see like the joy that it brought. And I really feel like if it doesn't hurt you and it doesn't hurt your partner and they fully consent to, like if it is like painful, but they're consenting to it, then why you got to worry about it? Why you got to worry about
business, it? Like,
and I don't know actually if Vandy is into BDSM, because I don't know if she can tell the difference between fear and arousal. And so I made this for all of our Ali Hazelwood fans. I put my scientific cap on, and I want everyone to know, like, even though fear is stimulated in the amygdala, it also creates an emotional response that is initiated in the same places where your kind of arousal starts. So a lot of people often confuse and conflate. The brain conflates fear and arousal. So I don't know, based on like their very light introduction to this, how much Vandy's actually into this and how much she's really conflated fear and arousal because she's lived her life in fear for so long because of her dad, because of her experiences with her other relationships and people kind of like abandoning her and leaving her. And so I'm wondering, as Vandy heals, how much of this is still going to be relevant to their relationship. And then I would just say, like, it's cool. Like, ultimately, like, I think Penn was kind of being weird about it.
I think so too.
But I also think it causes a conversation of how important is sex in the relationship. Luke was willing to give this up, and Penn was not. Like, I don't know why this was the barrier for them. I have a lot of notes on just.
Yeah, I was reading some of them earlier.
I think ultimately, because I'm for Vandy applying that psychodynamic approach, I think. This is more psychoanalytic, I guess. I think she might be transferring some of her emotions and feelings and lack of safety that was created by her father onto Luke. And by having him being in this kind of this dom position that's very controlling, very much like you will do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
And her constant want for that. Like, she was like, I just want someone to tell me what to do for once. I'm like, I feel like people are always telling you what to do, but go off. She's able to transfer these feelings onto Luke. And because Luke gives her that safe space and that ability to say no, and she fundamentally in her core knows that he will respect that, I think is very healing for her and her relationship and her attachment styles. And so I think that's where the healing is coming from in their relationship. And it's allowed her to open up and become more trusting of not just Luke, but of herself and of her self-worth. And so I think that's more of the BDSM story than BDSM. I think Ali Hazelwood might have just wanted a catalyst. And I always want to like her books because I really like what she has. I like her concepts. I like that they're scientific. I like that they could be neurodivergent. I like that they're just not your typical romance characters. But sometimes this just felt like a grab for something interesting, like the fact that Luke always wanted to have his shoes off, which I thought was like the weirdest. Like, he doesn't need to be doing this. This is a weird personality trait you're adding in.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ali did enough research on the BDSM community outside of the overwhelming need for consent and how important that is to really call this BDSM. This is just really kind of just maybe rough.
It wasn't
sex.
that kinky to me.
Or maybe we're just too kinky.
Maybe we're the problem.
Maybe we're the problem. Maybe everyone's out here loving missionary. Love some mish.
I was also reading your note about how Luke wanting to be in control with Bandy, but also denying himself the moment he feels out of control. I think that's something to really explore. And I liked how you talked about it's not tied in to his mom's death because they had mentioned he kind of had these control issues before his mom's death.
Yeah, so they talked about how at like 12 he got a new bed. It was too comfortable, so he slept on the floor for like 2 months.
Stupid.
Because I think your initial thought as a therapist is like, oh, this traumatic event happened, so you now do these things in reaction to protect yourself. It's a defense mechanism. But this was before his mom passed, so I'm wondering, like, where this sense of denial is coming from. And so some questions around that is like, when did you start to feel the need to deny yourself? What is it about liking things that make you feel out of control? Are there other areas in your life where you feel like you've never had control or don't have control? Growing up, did you ever feel like you were out of control? So just some kind of straightforward questioning on that. But yeah, I also find it interesting.
Yeah. It was, yeah. I
would say the book as a whole was really interesting. For me, literary wise, Ali Hazelwood has really progressed as a writer. Like, I actually think of all the books I've read.
I've only read 2 of hers.
I've read 4 of hers.
Damn.
Because I love her covers too.
Yeah,
she has the cutest covers. She has great premises. But sometimes for me, her writing is so clinical and black and white that it's hard for me to care about the characters.
There was one,
or like find a connection with the characters.
There's this one line where she used like the technical term for whatever type of flooring it was, where she could have just said floor. And I was like,
but cultural consideration, Ali Hazelwood, I believe, is Italian.
Props to her. She did her research.
And she has a PhD. And she does, like,
she's badass.
She's an actual researcher. Like,
I don't want to shit on any of her.
I think as a woman, I want to be her. Like I want her. She's so smart. She's so smart.
And I think she really does a good job of like character growth throughout the book. I think she portrays that so well compared to so many. I think especially like romance and romanticy genres. Like, I feel like character growth isn't always shown that well, and so I think she did a really good job with it in her book. And again, I love the timeline. She did a great job with the timeline.
Yeah, I think this is one of her best books.
Yeah,
and there are Ali Hazelwood stands out there. I was at the cookie plot picking up our next book, and a random lady saw me talking about The Deep End and Love Hypothesis, and she was like, "Oh, should I read The Deep End? Should I read Love Hypothesis? I love Ali Hazel. What should I do? I'm so blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, go off, queen.
Pop off."
I'm not going to share my thoughts. But I would say for me,
yeah, what was your flag rating?
Yeah, I'll give my flag rating. Actually, let's do is he hot or is it trauma, and then the flag rating. So is he hot or is it trauma?
He's hot. I don't think
he's hot. Yeah, he's just hot.
He's just hot.
I let my friend date him. He's just hot.
I would date him.
You would date him. He's tall.
Which I think is better than the last person I said I'd date. So
yes. And the last person you dated. I'd rather you date this fictional character.
me too.
So my flag rating, because we both agree this guy is just hot, pretty healthy, willing to work on himself too, which is huge. So my flag rating, definitely green flags. I'm going to give 2.5 green flags.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think it's worth the read. It's just not necessarily for me.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, I think it was good. I didn't like crazy love it. And again, I just don't think it's a book for me.
Yeah, but it's good.
Yeah.
Like it's good.
It was good.
It's good.
It was well written.
For Ali Hazelwood, this is really good.
Yeah, I liked this a lot more than what's the other one called that I read?
Love Hypothesis.
Love Hypothesis.
Yeah.
But I also read that a long time ago.
But the characters from Love Hypothesis show up in here.
Yes.
So. All right, guys. Stay reading.